energy of the word of that you're having homemade good stuff in there and
Yeah.
people's products and
Right. Yeah. I mean, there is the word has gotten out now too. So a lot of people just they come in with stuff they make and say, "Hey, I heard you guys buy things that are made for by just anybody around." And
so that's a nice intertwining that you have. You have your homemade garden, I mean the urban garden, and then homemade goods that mix together. So when my wife were in there last time we were there, we bought some broccoli stuff that was so good, and it looked differently, and you were kind of explaining to all of us that day that broccoli can still, they have the look of what broccoli might look like, but it can still, you can eat a lot of it still when it's still growing and stuff like that.
Right. Well, the kind of broccoli so part of the property where the store is actually, it's big, right? It's almost an acre.
It's beautiful.
So on the back part of the property, we have a little mini farm going. And so some of the stuff that we grow, we pick and sell on the storefront just that day. And there is a kind of broccoli, it's called sprouting broccoli, which makes a head at first, but then it sends out little side shoots of broccoli florets for months at a time. So it's a great plant, especially for the home garden, because you're just picking the same plant literally for 2 or 3 months. There's not, most winter vegetables aren't like that. Most winter veggies, you either harvest the entire plant at one time and you're done with it, or you might pick a little bit, like regular broccoli, you can pick the main head and then it'll send out some side shoots for a couple of weeks, but this thing you're picking for months.
Wow, that'd be the way to go. That way you can just keep trimming off and self-feeding and not replanting, which sometimes...
Yeah, exactly. It saves space that way.
And space. Oh, that's a great idea. I was just thinking replanting every time, that is a chore, but with the modern society that we live in, something like that, you just keep plucking from it and the plant stays alive and you just eat throughout the time that you're doing.
Yeah, so because we have a farm, we have a lot of plant material that needs to be dealt with once the plant is finished doing its thing, like cauliflower or all kinds of other plants that you're not eating the whole plant. So I built a little compost bin in the back, and we're going to start composting now because we have, even sprouting broccoli. At some point, it gives up, and you have to get rid of it and replant. So we have like a couple of rows of broccoli plants that I wanted to compost, and we want to have classes on the property, which we do. We've had garden art classes, and I had there's a grape trellis there, so I had a little grape pruning class a few weeks ago.
Oh, I see that. That is beautiful. That, man, the way you have that all set up, it kind of acts as a nice kickback area too.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so anyway, I thought, let's have a compost making class since we're going to be making compost, and part of what we do is try to educate people about gardening and food and stuff. So.
Well, nice. And and starting off, meeting you, that's the end trail of what happens in a garden. You got to recycle if you can, and the compost. And I like how you made up the stalls. I mean, that's really neat. You can almost have each stall individually geared for what you need at the moment. Yeah. So, the way we do it there, composting can be as much work or as little work as you want it to be. There we go. That's for the modern society, the urban gardenist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always best to put organic matter back into your soil. So when you're gardening, just in general, you really want to feed the soil instead of necessarily feeding the plant. Wow. So if you feed the soil takes care of the plants. And the way to do that is to just keep putting organic matter back into the soil.
Minerals. It needs minerals.
Yeah, minerals, all kinds of stuff. Right. And so if you just continually either compost or just mulch with the things that are growing in your yard, you're going to have much healthier soil. You're going to save money because you won't have to go out and buy as much, amendments or fertilizers necessarily.
Just self-feeding,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's sustainable that way. At the store, we're making compost because we have so much stuff. But at my house, I don't compost anymore. What I do is what we call in permaculture chop and drop. So what that means, you just pull out a plant and you tuck it under another plant that's growing. And that way you mulch the ground, the soil, right? Mm-hmm. Especially In the summer, it becomes somewhat more important because you're covering the soil, which holds moisture, so you're saving water that way. But yeah, you're also feeding the soil as the mulch breaks down, it just turns into soil itself.
Right, get all that extra nutrients.
Yeah, and then you don't have to build a giant compost pile, right? Which is backbreaking work to turn that thing all the time.
You need a tractor.
I mean, if the pile's big enough, yeah. Commercially, that's what they use to make.
Well, we should have something in Stockton, like a big, huge area where there's millions of cubic tonnage of compost that people just scoop in their truck and then.
Well, they do have them. Landfills make compost out of garden waste in town, and
and that's where on your class you were also recycling some of that garbage stuff that was. Could you help explain that a little better? Where you kind of sort through some of the soil.
Yeah, so
leading from Jim's.
In classic compost making, you have your green material and you have your brown material, often leaves or dry grass or straw or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then the green material would be, say, a plant you freshly took out. And so you layer a brown material, green material, brown material, green material. You want it to be a little bit moist, and to make compost quickly, you want a big pile, maybe 4 by 4 by 4. So, our little pallet bin works good for that.
Yeah.
And so what happens is chemically, the reaction of the rot that takes place inside, and you have all kinds of critters in there that are decomposers.
Like worms
and beetles. I mean, all kinds of stuff are in there acting.
Little critters.
Yeah. So, inside the pile, it gets very hot. So it'll get to 150 degrees if you have a big pile.
Wow.
And
I would never imagine get that hot.
Yeah.
That's that steam. Like that's sometimes.
Yeah, right. Like sometimes you'll have a leaf pile and you might stick your hand in the middle and say, "Oh, hey, that's really warm in there." So, or grass pile, right? That's what goes on.
Okay. Yeah.
And it heats up to 150 degrees, and of course, at that point, things inside are just getting cooked and it is breaking down. And but after a few days, it cools down, and so the high end. If you want to you don't mind doing work, and you want to make compost quickly, that is the fastest way to do it. So, but you have to, when the pile cools down, you have to restack it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So you just with a fork usually will take the stuff that's on top, put it in the bottom. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't. It is. Yeah. It's not easy to do, and it is hard on your back. I mean, if you're 20 or 30, it's fine. But I'm in my 50s now. It's not that. It's not that much fun. Yeah. So, but anyway, if you're constantly moving the stack from one part, from one stack just to another stack that you build with the same pile right next to it, then it will break down very quickly. And you can have compost in, 15, 16 days if you're really like turning it every single day and managing it intensely. Wow. But it is a lot of work. And, but of course you're going to get great compost quickly. So that's the benefit of it. Or you can just, what I do at home other than chop and drop is with my food scraps from the kitchen, I just walk out the back door and toss them underneath a peach tree, and a pile, eventually builds, and it doesn't heat up or anything, but over time, it just breaks down, and then the stuff on the bottom of the pile, months later, is compost that I can use somewhere else in my garden.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's kind of transferred around and stuff as you need it and stuff.
My problem is the dogs. The dogs get in, so that's the harder part.
Well, there's, if you're making compost.
Rodents.
Rodents can happen if the pile is too wet and you get a lack of oxygen down at the bottom of the pile, and then it'll stink. I mean, when you smell really sewage... you know that your compost. Yeah,
time
exactly.
To turn it for sure.
Time to turn it and put a cover over it so that if it rains, it's not going to just keep getting soaking wet. So anyway,
so for maybe people that don't have such a large amount of land, like you're saying, from your home, which is maybe a house, and we'll scale down to an apartment. Maybe if people still want to do that in their little area, what's kind of maybe a good suggestion for an apartment?
Well, one thing you could do in an apartment is you can have a worm composting bin. So people do it's vermicomposting and vermiculture, and it's just you get a box. It's got to be aerated. There's things in a box, and you get some worms. You can buy them or dig them up. I mean, usually the vermicomposting worms are not like the red worms that are in the soil already, but you know, if you have those worms, that's fine. So you would just like feed your kitchen scraps to put it in the box with the worms, and over time the worms eat it, and then the worm castings are excellent for the soil.
Yeah. Wow,
that's a great amendment for any garden.
Oh yeah.
Oh, definitely.
But you know, the downside is it takes a long time for worms to eat stuff. So if you're producing, like if you cook all the time and you have a lot of food scraps, you know, the worms you're going to have more scraps than the worms are going to be able to handle.
Right. Maybe just for what your needs are, I guess, for something of that size of an area that you can do that for.
I mean, my point is that you'll probably have too much stuff, and you're going to have to figure out a way to deal with it because the worms aren't doing it quickly enough. But then you can just, you know, I mean, if you're in an apartment, I guess you would, I don't know, put it in green. Or go, you know, if you're in an apartment, got landscaping, go stick it under a shrub somewhere.
There we go. Share the love. You know, if anything, it's a great science project for the kids or the family to get involved.
Yeah, that's
maybe
true.
See
yeah.
that. Maybe like a clear plexiglass. I remember back in the day with ants and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, and they have bee frames with glass so that people can see the bees doing their thing.
Yeah, so that's cool. And so coming from recycling the compost and everything, so we're now covering it, and the heat's coming up. So it does take a little while for it to make into something that's usable.
Yeah.
And so anything, I mean, you can just plant anything. I mean, that stuff is ready when the time allows it. I mean, is there anything specifically that you can gear towards?
What do you mean?
Like, I mean,
like fruits and vegetables or plants? Or
right. Is there a certain...
That you would use it for, you
right,
mean?
like edibles or just more ornamentals?
You can use it for anything. I mean,
the soil is just rich with...
So when we built the little farm at the store, we imported compost from one of the landfills. And we don't... It's very simple. I don't, you know... I work hard, but I'm also lazy, and I want to do the least amount of work possible, right?
Right.
So we don't dig anything. We just got filled wheelbarrows full of compost and dumped them out in a row and raked over the row so it was flat, and we just plant stuff right in that.
Nice.
And
it looks so beautiful out there. I mean,
bury the weed seeds that way, and there's weeds in the pathways and stuff. But,
yeah. But the vision all together at the end season. Your vision and everything that's being put together is just amazing.
Thanks.
And thanks for letting me play the banjo the other day over there.
That was awesome.
It's just so serene. You know, I think I needed the therapy to play to the plants. You know.
Yeah, that was great.
It's just fun. And so they're definitely going to, you know, have a lot of segments about the urban garden in your store and seasonal and stuff like that. You know, it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
To always have you on the show and stuff.
We'd love to have Julie and I on here. That would be
yeah. We're going to have to bring her
in.
Yeah.
And tell us the address.
So, the address is 215 East Alpine Avenue. It's just east of El Dorado on Alpine Avenue by Oak Park, and it's the old site of the Alpine Nursery.
There we go.
So there was a nursery.
It's a little
there
oasis. You drive by it, and it's just...
it is now. Yeah, it's cool.
There's a lot of hard work. So with the composting, one of the little subjects that's kind of going around today is like the fertilizer stuff. You know, real quick, any opinions on organic fertilizer compared to what they're saying right now with the name brand that's kind of in question out there?
I mean, we
of course organic's always better for your body. But.
Yeah, and we do things organically when we grow stuff. It's all it's not certified organic because that requires a lot of paperwork and it's an expense that we don't want to take on right now. But everything we grow is just naturally grown. Yeah. So we promote what we call natural farming or natural gardening or natural landscaping.
Right. And I love that.
And so you don't need chemical fertilizers. And, you know, their use causes a lot of damage to groundwater and, you know, pesticides and fungicides and herbicides. I mean, you're just killing life in the soil. Right. So, which is the opposite of what we want to promote. You want life in your soil.
Want the life, right?
Yeah, because the healthiest soil is just teeming with all kinds of life, and it produces the healthiest plants. So, if you're out there killing it, you know, they do it because they think. I mean, you know, you can have like a couple of guys handle 100 acres or 200 acres or something on a tractor and with sprays and stuff. So it's a way to intensively manage the land, but it's very damaging. And we don't really promote that at all.
No, that's where we're hoping.
We do sell organic fertilizers. They're just, bone meal and blood meal and stuff.
Well, there we go. That's healthy and stuff.
So it's, but we don't actually, we don't use it when we grow stuff ourselves. Mm-hmm. The farm does. We only use compost, and so compost has pretty much everything a plant will need. So you don't really need
to add any extra stuff. And for the urban gardenist, that's you don't need to get the big commercial products. I mean, because like you said, you just recycle it yourself then and there.
I mean, once it's built, sometimes there's, like it was for us, we had to import compost and built the rows, and but once we start, now that we're starting to make our own. We can just kind of supplement the rows that we already have when we do new plantings.
Oh, nice. So we'll be cutting time off here pretty soon, really short here, going to some music of Yellow Dot Music and some commercials here. But is there any classes coming up or anything you'd like to share about your store coming up within this next month of March? And
we are going to have some basic gardening classes, but we haven't scheduled a date yet. We're kind of waiting for see what the weather is going to do.
Sure.
But we'll have garden art classes and gardening classes and other events like private like events, after hour dinners and pop-up dinners and stuff.
Nice,
we're talking about doing that.
And then so for the public, how can they get a hold of you? All the medias that we can,
we're on Instagram and Facebook at inseason.store. Mm-hmm. And we're on, you can walk into the store. Hopefully you will.
There we go. It is. It's a wonderful oasis here.
Yeah. 215 East Alpine Avenue. That's the address again.
All right. Well, thanks for coming by today.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Definitely.
Anytime. This was fun.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely going to be our guru here at the show.
Okay.
All right.
And
we'll be checking in on the in seasons that actually happened. Boom, boom. Psh, no pun intended. So if you don't mind, in the commercial break here, we can take a couple pictures and then.
Sure. Sounds good.
We'll catch you very soon. Thank you so much, Eric.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get this going here. This is KXVS.org, the Yellow Dot Spotlight Show. Every Fridays, 12 to 1 p.m. And don't forget to, we're always looking, what do we got here? Anyways. All right. Some Yellow Dot music.
InSeason.store. InSeason.store. That's where you find Eric.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college, which ends up making the future better for all of us. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
All right. Hello, Stockton, California. How y'all doing out there? This is the Yellow Dot Spotlight Hour. Every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m., your lunchtime information of all the arts and music and stuff we have local here at our community radio station. And speaking of community radio, we could always use your support. We always have fundraisers and donations going on. Become a member. That's one thing that we'd love to have, more members, because we want this family to grow. Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing. I'm blessed to always meet the new people and some of the people I've kind of known already through the station. And it's so awesome to be a part of this family. And gosh, I thank everybody here. Thank you so much. So today we have Darius Oliver, a numerologist. And man, such interesting stuff. You know, to dabble into this stuff. He did mine, and some of the points were right on. And so I was asking him, you know, what is the numerology? And so one of the many things it does, but how to get there and why. You know, one of the how questions is we're looking for number patterns, from what I'm understanding, and so I'm here to even understand more, which is really interesting. And so we're here to have Darius enlighten us with the enlightenment of numerology. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, of course. We're gonna definitely have have you return as our guest, as we can always check up on our guests and see what's happening. So, so some of the people that are just kind of just barely heard about numerology, can you just start jumping right in? And what are the first things that you might want to kind of tell people about?
So numerology is basically the study of numbers and how they relate to us and the patterns that they reveal about how we interact with our own self and how we interact with those around us. What it does is it also gives us insight into our own flaws and our strengths. It helps us to have understanding that bridges the gap between our communication with other people. Where it helps families at is in the areas of mutual understanding where, I find out that this person has this strength or this particular weakness. This tells me that, that's the issue they're working on. I know that this is just something that they're here to work through. So
with the numbers, kind of helps guide maybe some people if they can understand the patterns of their patterns. So we kind of mentioned that they're here to work through. Can you maybe elaborate on some of that insight, why somebody might be here to work on things? And communication is a tool that everybody, has different levels of, and try to get across from one human to another. I firmly believe in communication is really important, whether it's media or just to one another, family members. Gosh, even within my family, communication is important to where, gosh, we're always learning from each other. And so we can...
in that area right there, just that alone right there, with families, understanding parents, see, the numbers, and it's coming from their birthday. Okay. So a lot of these numbers are numbers that follow us around in our lives, and we don't even know why. We just notice, the number 3 has followed me around my life.
It just keeps repeating.
Right. What we notice when we take a look at numerology is that it shows us that these numbers are interwoven into our personal blueprint, and they are there to serve as signposts to tell us, hey, pay attention. Hey, wake up. Look, check this out. This is something you should pay attention to. And when we take notice of these signposts, a lot of times that will indicate the direction for us to go in.
Sometimes maybe that's why going against the grain or something might come up. It's like naturally, you try to find your natural flow of why we're here and what we're maybe to learn and stuff like that.
Exactly. When a person knows the certain numbers in their chart,
And that's from when they're born. That counts right the day they're born, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Starts from the day you're born, the day and the year and the month.
Mm-hmm.
That little simple, those 3 simple numbers right there just tells so much information, especially the day you're born. That's going to tell us your talents and abilities and your gifts. That gives you so much information. People that I've spoken to have asked me, what are good days for them to open up businesses? What are good times for them to sign contracts? Oh, hey, I'm building a team. What people should I put together? Or in my classroom, who should I put at table 3 or table 4?
Yeah.
There we go. Compatibility sometimes that might work to your advantage.
Exactly.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, exactly. And the beauty of it is that it gives understanding, and it can be applied in the actual real world. What it's done for me personally is it's given me a lot of self-understanding. There's a quote, know thyself. And that's what it has helped me to do, is to know myself better, especially at a time where I was feeling very lost. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, guidance is great. And if you can find any tools that kind of help naturally to be aware of that is an awesome thing, to have with family, and stuff like that.
This is the real deal. I mean, people probably tell you, oh, that's hocus pocus, man. This is not real stuff. But, I mean, nobody's getting hurt from numerology. It's been around for, thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have nothing to lose when you try to apply it to your life, and you might be shocked.
I just look at it as it's another tool that kind of helps us here. It is. And
you just have to know math. If you can count to 9, you can do numerology, right? Yeah, that's all you have to know.
And when I found it, it was actually my first business mentor who introduced me to it. My first business mentor, we were just sitting at Starbucks waiting for one of our appointments to show up. And he said, hey, Darius, what's your birthday? And I said, oh, okay. I told him what my birthday was. And he told me, oh, you're a Life Path 1. I'm like, oh, okay, what's that, right? So I was along the line of one of the ones who initially was very skeptical of it. I wasn't like, oh, okay, I believed it right away. It took me quite a while
to see the patterns that kind of reveals itself, that you're going, wait, there's something to this.
Right. It had to scare me a little bit.
Right. That's usually the human nature. Once you get scared, of anything, you can kind of believe. Yeah. Sometimes, I guess. Maybe a bad analogy.
And what I mean by scare me, by scare me is it became so obvious.
Yeah. It's real.
Yeah. I just was wondering, because I initially thought, oh, okay, well, this stuff is bad. I was raised in a tradition that didn't believe certain ways were best for everybody.
Right. Uh-huh.
And moving from that, I looked and I was looking at evidence around me, and I was like, well, hey, I was taught this, but why are these numbers saying something that is, and I'm seeing it in the world all around me. What is there? What is that? There's a little bit something more to look into here, is what I came to that conclusion. And so it just became so interesting to me. I just kept studying it.
It is amazing, because it is part of our universe, which we are made part of the universe, which numbers obviously is part of the geometry and everything else involved with that. It's really interesting insight. Hopefully we have tools to guide us here with other tools that are out there without getting too deep on the belief size. But, real quick, we are all people under one sun.
Yes,
yellow
we are.
dot.
Yes,
but anyways,
we are.
So,
in fact, from that, what I spoke from where I came from, the beauty of that, the beauty of being brought up in that is it was one of the initial schools of thought that got me interested in numbers.
Wow. See, there's always a rhyme and reason sometimes,
right,
for that and stuff. And so coming across a lot of people and stuff, and they come to ask you just little things like you were saying, meetings or things that might be able to give them a little self-confidence, so to say, maybe have and stuff like that. And what else does numerology kind of help help with yourself and other things that you can elaborate on, or any stories that you might want to share.
Or like couples, like when people, man or women, or they would meet and they say, are they compatible? Should they even keep working on this or just leave it,
Yeah, that's, I'm glad you asked that question. For me personally, it helped me as far as my purpose is concerned. Where it comes to compatibilities, it really sheds a lot of light on the strengths and the weaknesses of a couple. If a couple has a consistent pattern that arises, that they don't see eye to eye in this particular subject or in that area, understanding the reason why and certain issues that they're here to work through gives insight to both partners. And what we often find is that after a discussion like this, they walk away feeling like they understand their partner a lot better. Oh, I didn't know that that's how you felt when I said that. Oh, you know what? I didn't know that when I respond in this way, it makes you think of this. It gives insight to people, regardless. And it's something that serves them whether they're at work, but especially in relationships.
Yeah, sometimes we just get kind of confused for not understanding why. And if you can kind of look at the patterns that the numbers do arise to us, it does help out as a tool to try to anticipate, if this pattern is coming up and stuff like that.
And you asked about a personal story.
Oh, yeah.
There, as far as how me and my fiance met. So one of the numbers that follows me is 4.
Okay. So you see 4s a lot of times, a repetition just out of the blue, and
right. 4s have always surrounded me, and I'm talking about people born on days that are equal to 4.
Oh, okay. Back to the birth dates and stuff like that. Okay.
Like my fiance is born on the 4th. Her son's born on the 13th. The dog's born on the 22nd. We met on the 22nd. And if you notice, all these dates equal up to 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. 1 and 3 is 4. 4 is 4.
Right. That starts blowing me away when you start doing this math. That was really whoa, and keep going with that. I love how you just kick up the numbers.
The bus that we caught that day was 67. 6 plus 7 is 13. I lived in apartment 76 for 18 years. My mom was born on the 22nd. You could go on and on and on. And this stuff was following me, and I had no idea because I just didn't pay attention to what was around me. And when I see these patterns in the future, I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention to this. Knowing that, because what's also really cool is the day that you're born will tell who you naturally get along with, who you're naturally going to click with. For instance, if you're born on the 5th, like myself, and I go and meet another person born on the 5th, 14th, or the 23rd, I'm naturally going to click with them because there's already an understanding there. There's not this get to know you phase of small talk, like, oh, how have you been? It's more so you just intuitively understand each other.
Just locked in.
Right. And that goes, if you're born on the 7th, you'll get along with people born on the 16th and the 25th that way. If you're born on the 1st, you'll get along with 19th and people born on the 10th. It's kind of like a natural family that blends. Then different numbers have different compatibilities with each other. And this is where we get into the relationships. How does a 1 interact with a 3? How does a 3 interact with a 4? And what are their strengths that complements the other's weakness? When we have these and we lay them side by side, we're able to find out that people who are so much like us will have the same strengths that we do. And they'll also have the same weaknesses that we do. And we'll really see the value of being with our opposites, because our opposites will have the strengths where our weaknesses are, and we'll have the strengths where their weaknesses are, so that by being together, we help to develop within each other.
Yeah.
Wow, that's how becoming one. Maybe the old saying that when two people come together, they become one. When somebody's strength is opposite of the weakness, and they complement each other to where they learn from each other. I would imagine.
Yes.
I mean, maybe sometimes people are not aware that they are learning from each other, but if they can see that, one has strength, one has weakness in different areas, but they pull together as one to understand that complement of finding numbers.
Right, exactly. And that's why a lot of times we're attracted. Oh, I love the way that this person does this. Oh, I love the way that that person does that.
Uh-huh.
Then once we get into a relationship, we're like, oh man, that same quality that you really liked is, it becomes something else. You start to notice different sides of this person. You start to see your own flaws in this person as well as your strengths. You realize, wow, this person is a mirror of myself. And then the numerology, what it does when we know these numbers, for instance, the 3 deals with incredible sensitivity and ability to express. And let's say the 5 deals with communication and ability to adapt to different circumstances and situations. They play hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 is here. The 5 can make a master salesman. The 5 is very good at selling a product. The 3 is really good at hosting parties, very social number. The 2 is really good with teamwork. Don actually, I asked him what his birthday was. He actually has a life path that's perfect for working in teams and in organizations and bringing people together.
Yeah. Number 2 then?
Yes.
Yeah. That's all the love number they call.
That's one
So
of the love
there's
numbers.
a loving person. If you're number 2, everyone loves them, they hug them, and they want to be around them a lot. So
Yeah.
love you, Don.
Love you, Don. This one goes out to Don. Really love.
And, and there you go. See, you're able to identify certain strengths.
Yeah, and that definitely goes along with communication of our humankind accepting each other a little better, and sometimes if we do understand each other better, the wall comes down to accepting our differences with each other and accepting our strengths and our weaknesses, and it's just kind of a nice an awareness, as every time I dabble in this, my awareness always kicks up a little bit, and my vision of all the numbers and what happens and stuff, and so so you did Don's number real quick over there, but is there anything on Jim? Is that okay if he just does it's up to you though, because
I'm really into numerology, and I've been talking to Darius, and I've read books, and I've applied it. To me, this stuff works, and I just think, oh man, this is hocus pocus. People are gonna think I'm nuts, but in a way, I don't know, Darius agrees. This could be like a party trick, man. If I go to a party and I see somebody who's acting a certain way, I bet $100 they're a number 1 or they're a number 2, whatever, and we'd run the numbers, and it's usually right. And you start telling them, well, you like this, and you usually do that, and they think you're psychic. They go, how did you know that?
That's so true.
One practical tip that I've used, and maybe we can just share with everyone, is the number 8.
Oh, the infinity, the loop.
So one thing they were told, the numerologist that too, he said, take the number 8 and literally put it on your door where like your office. Right, or someplace that money is happening, because that's like a money number, right?
Right.
So, and I did it to my own office years ago, and somehow there's always money in the bank. So, or in your wallet, you put the number 8 in your wallet. So that's like a little sneaky fun thing people can try today. And if you win the lotto, KXVS.
Right.
.org.
Share it with the Yellow Dot Spotlight Show.
I think it's
and the radio.
I think it's so cool, Jim, that you mentioned the number 8. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
You mentioned the number 8. Today's the 17th. 1 and 7 makes
it's an 8. It's an 8 days. That's what we're talking about, the 8s.
And so 8 is all about flow. 8 is all about karma, give and take, balance. So that's in that nature with that 8, the money number. It's all about maintaining a natural flow of infinite abundance to you.
Your money in and out, not just gathering money, but hey, I'm spending, giving, and it's coming back. So yeah, it's fun.
Oh, wow. That is cool. And so, so in our town, what are some of the things that you might be doing, or is there anything you might want shout out there how.
What's this divine numerology? That's you?
Yeah, that's me.
There we go. We can share some.
We can find you.
Yeah,
on
so
Facebook.
I have a Facebook page and also a like page. Darius Oliver is my Facebook, and then Divine Numerology is actually the name of my company.
Great.
And that's where you can find me. That's where you can find posts that I put up about numerology. Lately, I've been putting up what this day means every day. People like that because they're able to get some insight about, hey, on this day, it's good to do this. And then on this day, it's good to do that. Not that that's all you do, but some really.
Well, I remember the one thing that you told me that for gigs, the best day for me to find gigs and maybe days not to gig.
Yes.
I want to avoid the gig, the days not to gig on there. So I want to avoid those
the music numbers.
The music numbers. But anyways, that was kind of funny when we dabbled on that. So we're gonna go to a quick little song break and then regather here with Darius and talk a little bit more about numbers. And let's take a quick little break here. Let me turn this on. There we go. Take a little break. We'll be right back. KXVS.org, lunch hour, Yellow Dot Spotlight, every Fridays from 12 noon to 1 p.m. All right. Here we are at Stockton, California, KXVS.org. We've got Darius Oliver here, a numerologist, talking about numbers and all sorts of stuff that's happening that could affect us, using tools of our lives to maybe understand ourselves, our inner selves, and maybe help each other, help communications, help understanding why, possibly, and stuff like that. And so we're here. I know you wanted to give a quick shout out to some good friends and supporters that you got here, and
I definitely want to give a shout out to everybody who has been supportive of me in this journey. Whether you just like my posts on Facebook, or share it, or you comment, it's all appreciated. Also want to give a shout out to my fiance's candles. She makes candles, and her company name is 3.
Nice. And that's we're gonna have to have her on our segment with candles and organic soys and oils and stuff like that. That'll be wonderful and awesome. And Darius, meeting you over the past couple of weeks, you just did a wonderful soul. I mean, it's so nice to meet you and
thank you.
Be able to share the energy and looking forward to a long time friendship with you. This is really awesome.
Likewise. And
so so what can you tell us? Let's see, we've got about enough time for just one last segment, and let's see, what can maybe you talk about today's date, that maybe if somebody's born on today's date, what can maybe somebody of a parent can look forward to?
That's a good question. So if someone was born on today's date, they will be a truth seeker. They're going to be a truth seeker. They're going to have a very strong individualistic type personality, mm-hmm. and they're going to be heavily involved in doing any kind of research, any kind of studying that will bring them closer to what their truth is. They're going to have a desire, a strength. They're going to have an ability to connect with people, and as they get older, mm-hmm. they're going to be really good with children.
No, that's wonderful, because we always need new generations preaching, the peace and joy of our humankind that we are together,
Yeah.
And so with all that strength that's happening with today's date, and people are being born, it's, that's a wonderful thing. And
for a parent to know, too, the parent has to know a child's numbers, because maybe they're pushing them so much. Oh, you have to do music. It's not in their chart.
It's not in their chart.
Music's not in their chart, and you're forcing it down their throat. And no, so know their numbers and try to push them in that direction. That's what I do with my kids. So I know their numbers, and I know kind of where to kind of guide them, and it's worked so far.
Wow,
yeah, it's fun.
Now that is amazing, because you can maybe try to guess some of their weakness that they might need help as parents, looking into their children and stuff like that. And so, any advice to some of the young people out there that can maybe use some advice on how they can use the tool of numbers?
Know thyself. And if you're having trouble, if you're looking for your purpose, you're only looking for it because you're close to finding it.
Wow. That's nice.
And the fact that you're seeking it shows an awareness of something that you're wanting to find. So it's on its way to you. You're going to find it. That's why there's the desire inside you in the first place. The courage comes from just taking the step to look and open the door once you hear the knock.
Well, that's wonderful, because sometimes the youth has sometimes a little trouble getting a little kickstart and having that positive reinforcement that they can look within themselves. And, and a lot of times, gosh, I remember being young, it's tough to look within yourself because you still don't know yet, but this could be a tool that can enlighten and help yourself out. As what Jim was saying, man, that's a perfect point. I'm going to start looking at my own children differently. I was like, oh boy, I better avoid my oldest son around this time. Just get clear, steer away. I'm kidding, JoJo. I love you so much, buddy. But it's a fascinating thing when I got to meet you, and you kind of dabbled a little bit in ours, and it is, gosh, a lot of points really hit and made me understand a little bit more, and maybe be more compassionate in some of my areas that I might need to be, or what my situations might include, and stuff like that. So Well, we're running out of time here, and Darius, oh my gosh, we just barely touched on the subject. I know everybody, we kind of jumped around a little bit, but Darius is going to be our numerology guru, and we're going to definitely have him repeat guest and talk about specific dates, and I'm pretty sure you're wondering possibly of that, and we'll have a call-in phone here pretty soon. So the next time, Darius, when we come by, we'll get the phone lines up and running so we can maybe have
so much fun.
Try to get some right, and try to do like on the spot.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Just touch the subject, nothing too deep, everybody. So don't be afraid. We're gonna get those call-in numbers going pretty soon, and this will be a wonderful thing. So one more time, how can we get a hold of you and your media and stuff like that?
Message me on Facebook, Darius Oliver. Shoot me an email. numerology1@gmail.com.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on by. It was awesome. And so here we are at KXVS.org, the lunch spotlight hour. Next week, real exciting. We've got about, I think, 4 shows up and running of the Spotlight series here at the lunchtime. We have Mondays with Joy Nace, with, Behind the Arts, right? Yeah. Behind the Art scenes. And then we have Joyce coming up on Wednesday with Breaking the Art. She's going to be focusing on the Western Ranch area with all the artwork and children out that way. And then I believe on Thursday, Mama T is coming by, and I'm finding out more information about that. So I love that. It's a Mama T. I'm just going to call it that. Mama T is coming by on Thursday. And, of course, every Friday you can check out the Yellow Dot Spotlight show with Jim Dennis and David Perry Molina here. Just
we'll be here.
Ending the week off. And so we hope you stay tuned for all the shows. All repeats can be seen at YouTube. What do we got, Jim? What is that?
It's
the voice. The Voice of Stockton. YouTube,
Facebook,
KXVS.org. You can find more information on there, and don't forget to become a member. All right, we'd love for you to join our family. And here we are signing off for this week. Thank you so much, Stockton, California. And we're gonna fade out with some Yellow Dot music, some Yellow Dot electronica.